As you may know by now, which is why you're watching this video, muscle is really, really difficult to grow. It's very frustrating sometimes. So in this video, I'm gonna cover the 5 top tips on muscle gain to help you actually achieve your goal. It's coming up. Muscle. The wonderful tissue that is really hard to grow for some people and very easy to lose. Sarcopenia is an age-related condition, and as we get older, our muscle mass will just gradually decrease and decrease and decrease. So if you master now how to grow muscle, you will be able to master how to maintain it into your later life to help prevent a vast majority of conditions that can affect older adults. So going into tip number 1 for muscle growth is that you have to be working out. A lot of people try to find some video that's gonna tell them, hey, if you eat this, then you'll gain a bunch of muscle. Well, unless that's steroids, then I'm sorry. Don't be doing that. So if you want to naturally grow muscle a healthy way and have that muscle work for you to your benefit, what you'll want to be doing is you'll want to couple a healthy nutrition program alongside a great workout program as well for strength training. So how do you work out then? Don't be just telling me that I need to work out. Tell me some more information about it. So as a personal trainer, I know that you need to be doing something called progressive overload. But if you've never worked out before, the best thing to do is start off stabilizing yourself, stabilizing any muscle imbalances, and then progressing further to strength endurance, and then getting to the point where you can do muscular strength development. And then you get to the point where you can do hypertrophy. So if you're a beginner, you gotta be patient and you have to start slow. If you've been doing this for quite some time, maybe you've gotten past the strength endurance phase and you feel like you've hit a plateau and you want to actually do some muscular development, then what you need to be doing is make sure that you're at least doing 10 sets per muscle group of an exercise per week, spread out across the week. In other words, if you're specifically targeting something like the hamstrings, you want to shoot for 10 sets spread across the week. If you're doing anything less than that across the week, then you probably aren't doing a very progressive program. But again, every individual is different. Do not assume that you are at that level, especially if you haven't started out yet. You just got to be patient with yourself and work up to it. Why? Because you want to build the right foundation for your body. Otherwise, you put yourself at serious risk for injury, and if you're an athlete, potentially career-ending injury. So take it seriously, take the foundation seriously. Don't try to rush to the muscular growth if you're not ready. One last thing on that, I mentioned the word progressive overload. So as a personal trainer, I have to make sure that my clients have something that is progressive enough for their abilities. And again, the word overload does not mean that you overload yourself so that you're overworking. It's just stepwise processes of gradually increasing either intensity or volume of your training over a certain amount of time. Every 2 to 4 weeks, you gradually change things up and increase the dial very slightly. You really want to avoid the risk of overtraining, but in general, if your goal is muscular growth and strength improvement, then that stepwise gradual process of increases is going to be really good for you. So in essence, you can't just eat your way to muscle gain. You got to do some work also. Tip number 2, eat your way to muscle gain. What? Yes, so you have to be doing both. So you have to have a good nutrition program, and you also have to have a really good workout program. A really good workout program. Otherwise, your eating is not going to help. And if you don't eat well with a great nutrition program, then your workout's going to be absolutely pointless. What you want to do is you want to make sure you are in a calorie surplus if you're trying to grow muscle. If you're trying to grow muscle, you need to be in a calorie surplus. However, you do not, but 2 things with this one that really, really bother me. Number 1, you don't need as much of a calorie surplus as you might think. It just means that you need to eat a little bit over your basal metabolic rate, or your total daily energy expenditure, taking into consideration the amount of workout that you're doing, so the energy required from your workouts, and actually knowing them. You can't just estimate those assuming that your weightlifting routine just
burns 700 to 2,000 calories.
You can't just assume that, because it's very well possible that you're only needing about 200 extra calories than you think, depending on what you're doing. So that's one reason, one thing to consider, because then people pound down a bunch of food thinking that, hey, I have to gain weight, and they're gaining weight, but they're not gaining muscle. And so the second thing is, it matters what you eat. It varies from person to person because there's specific calculations, and if you're on my app or in my program for the nutrition platform, then you would have everything already calculated for you, so that way there's no guesswork on what those numbers are. But in general, it ranges anywhere between, depending on your biological sex as well, it ranges anywhere between 90 to 350, upwards of 400 calories extra, depending on, again, your biological sex, which we'll get into later. So again, you need a calorie surplus, but you don't need 1,000 extra calories or 2,000 extra calories if you're trying to grow muscle. Now, I'm not saying that your energy requirements don't jump up, especially if you're an athlete, you know, a competitive athlete. You might require actually 4,000 calories just to maintain your energy. Energy maintenance is different than gaining muscle. Gaining muscle is extra. It's like the bonus check that you get. It's not the foundational amount that your body needs. It's extra. So just keep that in mind. Tip number 3 goes alongside tip number 2, and that is eat protein. I mentioned it matters what you end up eating. I'd like to recommend that you eat protein. In fact, there's been research articles that show that 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight, all the way up to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight eaten in protein is significantly beneficial for muscle gain. Now, no, despite previous claims, there isn't a negative effect on your kidneys for more protein, or at least that has not been yet backed completely by solid evidence. So in essence, the upwards amount of the 2.2 grams per kilogram is actually really safe, especially for people that are trying to be competitive athletes too. So you want that more protein, but you want to make sure that it's from a bioavailable source. If you can, unless you're on a vegan diet, then you just want to make sure that you eat a little bit more than that, just because if you're on a vegan diet, that protein won't be as easily absorbed by the body as animal-based proteins. It doesn't mean that you can't be vegan. It just means that you need to consider eating more than that in protein. Now, if you're an older adult, more than 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight. If you're an older adult watching this, looking to maintain that muscle mass or looking to even grow your muscle mass and improve it, somewhere up to even 4 grams per kilogram of body weight, up to that can be helpful, because the sarcopenia, or the muscle loss in older adults, can be helped combat. There's research to support a higher protein intake for preventing that muscle loss. So again, protein is everything. So if you're eating that little extra surplus of calories, I personally recommend that it's a balance between protein and carbohydrates, or protein and fat for your energy requirements, because protein won't give you the energy you need to complete your tasks, but fat and or carbohydrates will do the trick. So keep that in mind for your macromolecule breakdown. In other words, those 3 things: protein, carbohydrate, fat intake. Keep that in mind. And if you're liking this video so far, before we get into the last one, go ahead and hit the like button, or don't hit it, just gently touch it, no hitting. So I would really appreciate it, especially if you're liking this content. Thank you so much. It helps me as a creator. Tip number 4, don't let the scale get to you. This is the same across literally any type of recomposition or body composition goal. Don't let the scale get to you. If you're looking at it and your goal is, hey, I'm trying to increase my muscle mass, therefore I should weigh more if I'm gaining the weight from the new muscle, right? Well, in the earlier stages, you might be losing some fat, and the balancing out that might be happening from the lean muscle mass that is happening for you is going to confuse you. It's going to give you that. It's going to make you really, really crazy, thinking that you're not actually making any progress. So I would personally recommend not looking at the scale in the beginning, or at least if you're going to do it, then track it over a longer period of time. Make sure that you're measuring yourself consistently, meaning right when you get up in the morning, and making sure that, of course, you go to the bathroom before or afterwards, because obviously that can change things. But be consistent no matter what you do. And don't let that scale get to you. Just stick with the program. Trust science. Don't trust your mind. It can play tricks on us. All right, last tip number 5, women muscle gains versus men muscle gain. So there's a lot of media that publicizes that men can try to pack on 3 pounds of muscle a week. I'm here to tell you, stick with the realistic numbers. It's going to be less obnoxious for you in the long run. The realistic numbers are ones that are done in a healthy way and that are general numbers. Now, obviously, somebody could gain more than this depending on their genetics, but I'm here to provide you with the average muscle poundage per month that could be expected for biological sex female and biological sex male. For men, if you have what's called an aggressive training program, meaning you're doing a lot of working out and you're very, very strict with yourself and you're very strict with your diet and your calorie consumption intake and your macros, then you can expect somewhere up to 2 pounds per month muscle gain. Now, again, these are general findings, so that way you can kind of understand what's a little bit more realistic and then what's a natural number. So in other words, somebody not taking steroids, somebody not overdoing it with the supplements that aren't actually FDA approved, things that are going to keep it natural. Because I want you to have realistic expectations, so that way you're not beating your body up because you're not meeting some ridiculous media claim. Now, if you're a male and you're trying to shoot for a less aggressive program and you don't want to have to worry so much about calories, then you can expect somewhere around 1 pound a month. Of course, it could be less than that number, but that's a good rule of thumb. It's about 1 pound per month for men. Women, we are different than men. We've got different hormone balances. We have the exact same types of hormones almost, but we have different levels of them. So we have testosterone in our body, but we have very different levels of testosterone. And throughout our month, it fluctuates as well alongside our cycle. Same thing with men. They have their hormone levels fluctuate throughout their monthly cycle that they have, but they of course don't have our lovely gift every month. But for women, take that into consideration. You don't have as much testosterone as men. And so for realistic numbers for women, so that way we don't drive each other insane with improper statistics, you can expect for an aggressive training program with really meticulous calorie consumption, being really particular with your macros, you can expect up to about 1 pound muscle gain per month. Now, that might sound really frustrating, but that's just the average results. Some individuals might have the genetic ability to gain more than that at a faster rate, and some might be less. So again, don't abuse your body just because that's different. Just know that those are the averages. For women with less aggressive training program, less meticulous calorie consumption, and less targeting for your macros, which again are those carbohydrate intakes, fat, and protein, you can expect maybe 0.5 pounds or half a pound of muscle gain per month. So keep those in mind, just that way you're not driving yourself crazy expecting those ridiculous media claims. So last thing I'm going to end with is actually a bonus tip. Is to help you understand why you need to have the calorie surplus. On a biological level, it takes energy to build things in our body. So it's going to take an environment where our body is in that surplus. Otherwise, we would be breaking things down trying to save our body. If you want to build muscle, on average for 1 pound of muscle in your body, it can take about 2,500 calories to 2,800 or 3,000 calories to build a pound of muscle. So it's like paying your body a fee, a toll fee of, hey, I want this. Well, you got to give your body something to get something from your body. Don't expect it to just do it like that. You have to put something in, and then your body is an amazing physiological workshop that turns everything. It's an alchemist, and your body will turn it into whatever you want it with that focused attention. And so just keep that in mind. You kind of understand why you need to be taking care of yourself in case you have hit a plateau, and that's why you were watching this video, because you want to make some changes and it wasn't happening the way you were doing it before. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope this helps clear up muscle growth on a foundational level, as well as some things that maybe you didn't know. So if you want more by me, I have fitness and health tips, and in the future at least, I'm going to be making a video on muscular development if it's not already up there, but otherwise, here's some stuff specifically for you. Check it out. Thanks for watching.